Good morning. My name is Bill Barabalt, president of the Richard Nixon Foundation, and it's a pleasure to welcome you to the Richard Nixon Presidential Library and Museum. Please stand for the presentation of colors and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in thanking the junior ROTC members from Orange High School, led by Bill Southern. Please be seated. I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce several of our guests that have joined us today. We have a foundation board meeting, so we're fortunate to have many of our directors here. First, Ron Walker, who's chairman of our board of directors, Jim Kavanaugh, vice chair, John Barr, our treasurer, George Arduous, John Hamilton, Gavin Herbert, Larry Higbee, Maureen Nunn, and Sandy Quinn. And also our partner at the library, the director of the Presidential Library, Mike Elsey. We're here to recognize and remember a great and courageous woman and to celebrate her life and her enormously consequential legacy. Today, First Lady Pat Nixon would have been 104 years old. She was a First Lady of firsts, the First Lady to visit China, to visit Russia, to visit Africa, to speak at a Republican convention. The list goes on. Not only did she travel farther and further around the globe and around the country than any other First Lady that preceded her, she also restored the dignity and the class of the White House and opened it up to people of all walks of life. She began to redefine the role of the First Lady, and it certainly was redefined in her time. We're going to appropriately honor her today in partnership with the United States Mint by celebrating the release of our nation's two newest official forms of currency, the Pat Nixon First Lady Gold Coin and the Richard Nixon Presidential Gold Coin. Both officially enter circulation later this month. This could not be happening at a more special time for the Nixon Library. On the President's birthday on January 9th, we kicked off construction of the new Nixon Library. We're excited to deliver to guests and visitors here in the future and to millions online a dramatically new presentation with updated technology, interactive displays, participatory learning, and opportunities for students of all ages. The new Nixon Library is slated to open this fall, and we hope we'll all see you here. For more information, please go to our website, nixonfoundation.org. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor for me to welcome Ed Nixon. He is the youngest brother of President Nixon, a founding board member of the Nixon Foundation, an alumni of Duke University, and a geologist by trade. Ed has devoted his life to finding new, more efficient energy resources. He is also the author of The Nixons, a Family Portrait, the definitive account of the personal side of the Nixon family. We are honored to have Ed with us today.
Thank you, Bill. Welcome, everybody. I know you've heard many stories, but I have a few, being a little older than most of you, that you've probably never heard. One in particular involves the fact that my brother, the second born of 5 boys, and I was the 5th. But before I came along, my mother was expecting one more time, and my name was supposed to be Patricia. Well, guess what? So I had to be named for King Edward VIII, who abdicated the throne a little later on, but Beyond that, I am here as Ed, and I remember my sister-in-law vividly, because when she came along, red hair and all, my brother was so enamored that he didn't talk about her much, but when I spotted that lady, I said, Dick, you better find that girl and keep her here somehow. Indeed he did. And I can remember Pat in those first few years of getting acquainted. She was a teacher, you know. She taught kids how to type and take shorthand and whatnot at Whittier High School. And in doing so, one of her ex-students happened to be my first babysitter. He was 10 years older than I, but he remembered Pat, because later on he was a director of Sealand Corporation, and he consulted me to find out how to get into the computer world and do his own computer work. And he said, you know, Ed, when I sat down at that keyboard, I hadn't seen one in 40 years, and that instruction that Pat taught me was just like natural. She was a great teacher. Indeed she was. She was involved in my education as well, and she was interested in young folks learning everything they could. She would challenge us. In fact, she arranged for a tour of the Griffith Observatory so that I could fulfill some of the dreams I had developed on that trip across country with Dick when I saw the meteor crater and became fascinated with astronomy and geology. Pat was with it, with everything that young folks needed to have. She had it, and she persuaded them, cajoled them. She even raced me on the sand down at Huntington Beach, and I feel if she's that young, I got to catch up with her. I better learn some more. She's a head of the PEP committee at Whittier High School, always full of spirit, always smiling and always ready to go. And it was easy to see how my brother was so fascinated with Pat. Little girl born in Ely, Nevada, 104 years ago today, and she became what we all know now and admire as the First Lady of the First Order. Thank you all for honoring and commemorating her birthday, and let's never forget, she was one great lady. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. As Ed said, we're proud that the United States Mint chose to honor President and Mrs. Nixon in such a special way. And to hear more about it, I'd like to welcome Jean Gentry, Chief Counsel of the U.S. Mint. Jean has served with the U.S. Mint for 33 years, and a year ago was named Chief Counsel. Jean.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you to the Nixon Presidential Foundation for inviting me to be here today. And thank you to Ed Nixon for being part of this historic moment. On behalf of the 1,700 men and women of the United States Mint, I bring you warm greetings from each of our 6 locations around the country. Headquarters in Washington, D.C., Fort Knox, Kentucky, where we protect the nation's gold, and our 4 mints in West Point, New York, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, where we mint our circulating coins as well as collectible coins and medals. In 2007, the United States Mint began issuing $1 coins commemorating former U.S. presidents in the order in which they served. Every year, 4 $1 coins made of copper, nickel, and a little bit of magnesium have told the story of the men who led this great nation. Now, Congress very wisely decided to also honor and recognize spouses of our presidents, gracious women whom we all know are the ones who really made things happen. But rather than being made of copper, nickel, and a little bit of magnesium, the first spouse coins are made of 24-karat gold, clearly reflective of the value these women played as they served alongside their husbands. As both the presidential $1 coin and the first spouse gold coin programs come to a close this year, we are very pleased to honor President Nixon and his wife, Pat, for their service to our nation. President Nixon actually has many ties to the United States Mint. He appointed Mary Brooks as the 31st director of the Mint, the third female to hold this position. It is also fitting that we feature our former president on a $1 coin, as he approved the legislation authorizing the Eisenhower $1 coin, which in 1971 was the first $1 coin produced by the Mint in 35 years. That same year, President Nixon presented the first proof Eisenhower dollar to Mamie Eisenhower in the White House. In 1973, President Nixon signed legislation authorizing new coin designs to commemorate America's bicentennial. The authorizing legislation called for a public design contest, a tradition we carry on today with a current national-wide public design competition for the World War I commemorative coin program, which is going on right now. Ladies and gentlemen, personally, this is a very proud moment for me. My parents met President Nixon at a function in Washington, D.C. in the early 1970s. When he was introduced to my mother, President Nixon remarked how beautiful her necklace was. My mother told him that it was a gift from my father and that he and the president both had excellent taste in jewelry. Throughout the years, my parents often shared the story of how President Nixon was so warm and engaging when they met him, and how great they felt when he complimented my mom's necklace. Again, I'm indebted to the foundation for the opportunity to be here today. Now, for what we've all been waiting for, let's show you these most beautiful designs. As you know, there are two sides to every coin, and we call the obverses the front side, the head side, and the reverse, which is the tail side. The obverse of the presidential dollar coins is a portrait of the president, and the reverse is common to all of the dollar coins, and they depict a modern view of the Statue of Liberty. I would like to ask the board members to come up here and help me as we unveil the designs.